Hello.
Hi everybody. Hi. Welcome to our live today. We've got content three ways happening today with three copywriters. So you're getting 3 times the value for the price of one or for the price of nothing, because obviously this is free. So you are lucky campers today. So I will introduce myself and then I'll let you learn all about the other two copywriters as well. So I am Becky. I'm an SEO copywriter, specialise in writing copy and blogs for law firms, legal professionals, and also legal suppliers. So we're here today to talk to you about the 3 different types of copy and how you can use them to boost your marketing. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Victoria or Vicky. Shall we call you Vicky for this? I
Yeah,
feel
sure.
like we need to be informal. So yeah, tell us all about you.
Yeah, so hello everyone. I am a LinkedIn personal brand manager and a ghostwriter. So I manage LinkedIn profiles for busy founders, coaches, creatives, and I do everything else that you can really do on LinkedIn for you. So all the way from copy to sending connection requests through engagement, all of that.
Perfect. Thank you. Over to you, Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise, and I'm an email copywriter specializing in email copywriting, particularly for planet-friendly and purpose-driven brands.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. So I'm gonna kick us off, I think, and we'll start talking about the importance of SEO copywriting first of all, and then we'll move on to yours as well, guys. And we'll just have a little chat today and see where the conversation takes us. We've got a couple of people that are here already, so that's nice. They've said hello, given us a little wave. Lovely. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how SEO copywriting differs from other forms of writing. So it'll be interesting to hear your take as well on this. But for me, SEO copywriting is all about getting your brand seen on search engines. So it's about having that most compelling kind of content that's going to make your readers want to click on and land on your website or your resource or whatever it is that you're going to offer to them. So it's about really learning about your users and what they're looking for and answering that within your content. Did you two have any insights on that while I'm talking about SEO in specific, or are you not all about the SEO life? I know not everybody is.
I mean, I heard about it and I tried for a little while actually, but then it was just so like different from what I was good at. Like I'm good at like understanding people's emotions and like really talking to that
Yeah.
rather than knowing exactly what they are searching for. So that's like a complete science to me.
Similar for
It is.
me. Sorry, Becky.
It's
Yeah,
a different
for me, I
thing.
haven't really gone into the whole SEO realm, but more about, well, similar to you were saying, really making it more compelling and direct to the audience, and leaving the SEO to the SEO specialist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like SEO is just like so different to any other style of copywriting just because you're focusing on different styles. So like tell us what's the biggest difference, like except obviously if you feel like it's much different from, for example, email writing or ghost writing or any other writing on socials.
I think there are definitely some similarities when it comes to email writing, because especially if you're writing copy for a landing page, because you've got to really make the most of every single word. And I think people have got very short attention spans, even more so than they used to have. So it's about attracting their attention really quickly and keeping it as well, which is really similar to email marketing, I think, in some ways. So yeah, you really got to think about every single word. And SEO writing is so much different to how it used to be. It used to be like, well, we'll just look for some keywords and then we'll just stuff as many of them as we can into a website, and that's that box ticked, SEO done. It's so much more than that nowadays. Much more about what your users are actually looking for, and everybody's looking for some free value, aren't they? We all want to be informed and educated, so that's what we need to be offering to our readers for sure.
100%, I agree with that.
So, what was I going to talk about next? I'm just having a little checkaroo on my notes because I wanted to make sure that we were covering all of our topics today. So, I was just thinking about a specific situation I had recently, and kind of just showing how SEO really works in terms of getting the perfect audience to get in touch with you as well. I speak to quite a lot of lawyers, and they obviously specialize in their own area of law, and it's about getting those cases in that they specifically want to get in. So for instance, they might not want to get into too much about partnership disputes anymore, and they might decide, okay, well, I actually want to help people sell their businesses. So that's another area of contract law or business law I want to look at. So recently, we did an article on how to sell your business when you've got a bounce back loan, which is something that I noticed it was trending a bit on Google when I was looking for one of my clients. So I wrote an article, and it was literally that. The title was How to Sell Your Business with a Bounce Back Loan. And with question content, that's really, really good for SEO and search in general, because it's how people search. It's like, if you think the last search that you asked Google, it would probably be a question like, and the other day, I think it was like, how do I make a cauliflower cheese sauce? You know, it's always about a question, isn't it? So going back to my example, I'd written a piece on that, and I'm happy to say that since February, it's been trending on the first page of Google still. So happy days. So that's just showing that Google is deeming that piece of content to be the most relevant and the most valuable for the audience. So my client, as a result of that, is now getting really super targeted inquiries, because that's what people want to come to him for. So it's not like he's just generating a load of random traffic to his website. It's all about the perfect kind of work that he wants to do. So, and that's, for me, that's just like SEO just completed it.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I guess that's a win. Exactly. That's exactly what you would want whenever you deliver the client work. And I would love to hear it. So obviously that is amazing. Like, congrats on the great results, by the way, Becky. And
Thank you.
for example, when it comes to SEO, what's like the challenge that you face every time like you work? Like, what's the most common challenge that you come across with SEO writing?
I think a common challenge is if there's a specific market that's really saturated already. So I'm just trying to think of one that might be. I mean, contract law is really saturated, so there's a lot of content online about it. And it's a case of really thinking outside the box. You can't just go for your generic keywords. You need to think about, okay, well, this is what I would call this particular process, but is that what my audience are calling it? Or do I need to think a little bit deeper about this and consider that they might be phrasing it in a different way? So it's really going in deep with those keyword research tools, and going in on Google's frequently asked questions as well, to see what the best things are. And it's always trial and error as well. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily get right the first time, but you've just got to keep plugging at it and just keep being relevant and valuable, for sure.
Okay. That's interesting, because you always have to kind of double check that whatever you are thinking might not be what everyone else is thinking, and you have to almost like back it up every time with data, don't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example actually of what people would call something. Let me think. I was talking to a client recently, and I did a website for them, and they were doing landscaping designs, but they were specifically working for like children's nurseries, so they were quite niche really. But they were doing more than just that. They would do like waste removal, they would like make outside classrooms, vegetable patches, like loads of different stuff, everything really to do with maintenance. And that was a bit of a challenge actually, because it was a case of, right, well, what would people actually be searching for? Like, would they look for nursery landscaping services? They didn't, by the way, that was not it. But that was that's kind of, you really have to think about your customers, or your potential customers, and what they might be thinking about, for sure. So should we move on to go on, Becky? No, sorry, Louise, you say.
No, that's fine. I was just about to say, it's like you're constantly having to switch personality to those audiences that your clients are looking for. So you're having to totally put yourself in that position and sit and think, like you were saying, really, what millions of different ways are people going to be reframing and asking that very same question to get the best output for your client?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's a similarity with all of our roles, is that we always have to be very empathetic and always think about that end user and what they might be thinking, how they might be feeling, and what they might need to see at that point in time, for sure. We've had a good comment actually from a lawyer, and he said, good point, you need to write in terms of what people are searching for, not what you think they are. for instance, clinical negligence is far outstripped in search volume by medical negligence. And yeah, that's a really good point. That is literally just one word changed around, and one might have like, you know, huge search volume and another might not. But it's finding those little opportunities with SEO and thinking like, well, okay, if there's something that someone else isn't doing, you need to get in there and write some content about it and start ranking for sure.
So if someone, like, if you were to give, for example, like 1 to 3 tips to someone that is just, for example, starting, maybe don't have any idea yet about the SEO, like, for example, I want to put content to my website, what should be something that I should, like, what would be the tip you would give me that I should definitely consider and add it or to my website, anything like that?
Oh, okay. So I would definitely get straight on Google, 100%. See what your competition is, see what they're doing. You don't want to be copying what they're doing, but you do need to be checking what they're up to. Have a look at their search results and see what's coming up. So, you know, that little meta description just under the search results, it's having a look at that and seeing, sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback from something. I was wondering where that was coming from. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not. Is anybody else getting that?
Yeah, I think I was something.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on in the background, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. That's good now. That's fine. Yeah, so seeing what other people are up to, comparing your description of your home pages compared to what your competitors are doing, and just making them sound more interesting than them, and seeing what else is going on for sure. And also on Google, looking at the people also ask section, which is an amazing free resource for anybody that's looking to write content. So if you search for a question and then it comes up with a little box that says people also ask, you drop down and it's literally an accordion of content that you can use from actual people. So yeah, that's awesome too.
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect.
No problem. So let's move on to you, Vicky. So the art of LinkedIn management and ghostwriting is what we're calling you today. So tell us a little bit more about what you do on LinkedIn and how you help your clients.
Yeah, sure. So as I kind of mentioned in the intro, like I do everything on LinkedIn you could do. So from content creation to engagement to connecting with people, to setting up events like this one, for example, lives and in-person events, and making sure that I invite those people for my clients, of course. And sometimes, depending how comfortable my clients are, I would also go into the DMs as well, whenever I would like say hello and kind of welcome the people in the network. So everything I do, I really focus on building LinkedIn's organically. So rather than going out there and connecting with hundreds of people and adding people to the network and just kind of searching for the impressions and engagement, rather what I do would be scaling a community. So I would go in and connect with people who would be in the target audience, or someone that you can connect with. For example, you two ladies would not be my target audience, but I know that I have great vibes whenever I read your content and in the messages and so on. So it's more about creating a community around your brand. So with personal branding, you could potentially quantify the results and you could really put it into numbers, but then those numbers would not speak about the actual relationships that you create. So I focus on delivering the side of relationship building, community building, and recognition. So whenever your picture appears somewhere, like, oh my God, it's Becky or is Louise there? So all of that is
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's not something that I need to worry about yet with my audience, but I do understand that there is a limit, isn't there, as to the amount of connections you have. So I suppose it makes sense to only have the people that either, like you say, you vibe with, or you could potentially help. So yeah, how many is that again? I can't remember.
So the limit, as far as I know, is 30,000 people. So you can go up to 30K and then you cannot connect with any more. The rest has to be followers. But at the same time, so for example, you don't have to have necessarily huge audience to start caring about your community. Often don't realize, it's like if you have 1,000 followers, you already have 1,000 people who either connected with you or click the follow button because they want to know or want to hear what you have to say. So like even whether you have 100 people is also already enough. Imagine standing in front of a room and where you have 100 people looking at you. Like that's so different when you just put it as a number on socials, because we often tend to compare, like, oh my god, she has almost 10,000 followers. Oh my god, they have 100,000. Well, my 1,000 is nothing. But then imagine that those people in real life, and it's so different. And usually the biggest thing kind of that my clients come to me is obviously like they want to keep on nurturing their audience, and they want to kind of build the relationships no matter kind of size, but often they wouldn't have time to go in and build the relationships on their own, or they don't have the expertise because we are three copywriters, so we love a good copy, but there's so many people out there that just hate to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what you said there about comparing it to real life, because I think it's really easy for people to get sucked into the realm of comparisons when the numbers are all of a sudden really large or seemingly really large compared to your seemingly really small number. But like you say, that's a really powerful image of standing in front of a room with, for some people, even 50 people in front of them, 100, that is huge. So by communicating to 500, 1,000 plus people is such an amazing thing to be able to do online, and for people not to downplay those smaller numbers, because if those smaller numbers are the right people, how amazing is that? And if you're in the position to be able to create that connection with them for people, I just think that for people to remember that vision of being in real life in front of those people, that's great, Vicky.
Yeah, I'm glad you've mentioned it, Vicky, because you did say that on LinkedIn last week, I think, and I've actually used that example a couple of times when people have said to me like, "Oh, I don't think I'm really getting much traction on LinkedIn. I've only got like 500 impressions." And you're right. When was the last time we stood in a room and had 500 people listen to what we had to say? I mean, that actually sounds pretty terrifying, but it's true, and we all need to bear that in mind for sure when we're pushing out content and feeling like we're not doing very well.
So Vicky, with those people, how do you kind of capture the client's voice if you're writing their voice and style when you're writing for them on LinkedIn?
Funnily enough, that's one of the biggest concern people have whenever they come to me. And what I have in place is whenever I start working with a client, the first step is always a call. So it's a 2-hour call, very relaxed environment. I always tell my clients, bring a coffee, a tea, a glass of wine if that's what you want. And we just have a chat. Basically, I ask them hundreds of questions. I'm really good with questions, and I love asking questions and getting to know people. So I come prepared for that. And basically, it's just me getting all the stories out of the people. But while they're speaking, it's not just me noting down all the content ideas. It's also me listening to the way they express themselves. So what words they're using very often, or what expressions they use, what they don't use, whether they are more energetic, and like you can see my hands going all over places here. So kind of how can you grab and transfer that into the content as well? So it's all that, like I'm getting a grasp of the person in front of me on the camera. And then whenever I'm writing the content, I'm obviously taking the ideas, what either they said or what I think would be relevant to them and their business. But I inject the content with the personality, with the person I got to know on that call. So it's 2-hour call, and we get really deep. And also afterwards, we have kind of an ongoing communication on WhatsApp. So if I have any more question, or if they want me to post about something more specific, they send me a voice recording or a message. So it's me, like I take the time to get to know the person. It's not just me like, okay, welcome on board, I'm going to write your content now, because then I wouldn't really know the person and I couldn't write that way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels there across all different realms of copywriting, but definitely for newsletter writing, getting to know that person because you're writing something personal on behalf of a person, a brand. So making sure that it's, like you say, not just the words that they would use, but the way in which they would say it is so important, isn't it? Because that is their brand personality, that is them.
Exactly. And especially because normally I work with solopreneurs or someone who has like, I don't think I worked with anyone yet who would have more than 10 to 20 employees, something like that. So usually it's small businesses, So the founders really like the essence, and the founders are often the face of the brand. So that's really important that, like, if you ask them obviously questions on the call, if you have a questionnaire that you ask them to fill up, or you do also your research, and before you would start writing, you would go online and see what content is already live that you can inspire yourself in. And then when you're writing, it's almost like you get into the zone and it's okay, I'm writing like them and I need it to make sound like them.
Yeah,
we need to become
absolutely.
all other people, don't we? We need to like kind of step into these people. It's crazy. It always makes me laugh when I take on a new client and they're just like, especially true with agencies sometimes, when they go, right, okay, this is the client, this is the brand guidelines, off you go, and it's literally like one page of like, our tone is professional yet friendly. It's really things that just are completely meaningless, and it's like, I can't work with that. I'm gonna definitely need to like go deep in what resources, like you say, are already there and really kind of embrace the brand as a whole.
Yeah, and that just shows how complex it can be writing copy, because we're not only stepping into the character and personality of the client, but also of the audience of that client as well. So you're constantly on this kind of cycle of switching between, yes, this is how they might say it or present it, but what also keeping in mind the needs of the audience to them as well, and what they're actually looking for and how they would talk and the things that interest them.
Yeah. Also, like what you, Becky, said, especially like when you said about the one-page document that is like, oh, I want my tone of voice to be professional and friendly, and this and that. Like, you have to get like so much deeper than that. Just like, because you need to become that person, and I cannot become like, you can't become a person if someone tells you I'll be professional and friendly. Now, go. It's like,
Yeah.
I need more. I wish it was that easy.
Is that one of the biggest challenges, would you say, Vicky, or what's in everything that you do, that initial setup, getting that bit right?
I would say at the start, I would say for me as a ghostwriter, the first kind of content submission is always the hardest, just because you're almost like you're starting from scratch. Even though some people often have, kind of some content online that you can inspire yourself with, until you get into their shoes, like until you become that person, that first time is always the hardest. I know, for example, like my second or third month working with someone, it's just so natural, like, okay, I'm gonna have to write my content now for Becky, for Louis. It's just like, oh, okay, this is what you would write, and it's just like, it just goes. Whereas at the start, you're like, whoa, what would I say? It's like this huge block, and then you are like, it's very slow to start, and then once you're in the flow, it's so much easier. So that's something. And then often, like, figuring out also what the community kind of responds to. So often the first 2 to 4 weeks, depending obviously on how often someone posts, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a part of the process until you really understand the community, until you really see what they like, what they don't like, what they resonate with. You build some kind of visibility at the start, but then to make sure that it sparks the emotion, that's something that also takes a little bit of time. Like, some people expect it to be, a first post has to be perfect. Well, first post is actually like, first 5 posts is full on just me shooting in the air and seeing what sticks, and then the next 5 is already narrowed down and they're done better, and then next 5 it's almost perfect, and then you keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be nice, having that instant feedback almost that you get from a LinkedIn post, you know, being able to tell like what the audience actually think, which is not something that you have from an email, is it? Or from a blog post, certainly not. You know, it does take a little while to get that traction to build, and you don't get that kind of detailed feedback either. So yeah, that must be quite rewarding in a way when you do start to get that traction and understand what your posts are doing for your audience. Their audience, sorry.
Absolutely. Like I would say it at the start, like figuring out what sticks, you know, and what resonates, what content resonates with the audience is much faster, as you said, in a post or, for example, a newsletter. But then making sure that you keep the momentum up, that's when it's kind of you have to figure out ways how to keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, are quite a lot of people concerned about kind of confidentiality, authenticity, because obviously they're entrusting you with their LinkedIn, you know?
Yeah. So every time I start working with someone, we have it in a contract. It's all confidential. So I don't disclose names who I work with unless they are happy, for example, to give me a testimonial or anything like that. Until they approve and they're happy for me to share who they are, we keep it private just because not everyone likes to share, not just that they have a ghostwriter, but especially they don't know what the response of their audience would be. So they prefer to keep it private just because they want to still keep it really authentic. And they don't want, even though their content is written in an authentic way, I just, I take the stories of someone else and I just put it in the way they would normally sit it, maybe slightly more sharper, you know. But they don't always know how the audience responds. I think that's the biggest kind of concern of like, oh, I don't know what they would think if I would write, you know, like, oh yeah, I have a ghostwriter and so on. Like often people tend to feel like, oh, she's not authentic, even though it's their words just written by someone else.
Yeah, I can see that. The so what's your kind of do's and don'ts of LinkedIn management really and ghostwriting?
So I have kind of, obviously LinkedIn can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, one, you can spend hours and hours, and two, it's like you have so many things to do that suddenly you're like, where do I even start? So I would definitely say like post content that shows you as a thought leader in the industry. So don't just teach people something. So like you are an expert in newsletters, Becky, you are an expert in SEO. Don't just go in and teach, for example, the people about your expertise. Make sure that they understand that they have maybe a problem and it's not just there. It's not going to be solved just by them learning about it. They have to somehow position themselves. You know, you have to like position yourself as a leader. You have to show them that like you have the problem and I am an expert in solving that. So positioning and content writing, it's one thing. Second thing is build up your audience. Don't stop at just posting the content. Go in and intentionally say, connect with people, say maybe hello in the DMs, like use the DMs. Everyone is so afraid, but no one is gonna bite you in the DMs. Just say hello. Nothing's gonna happen. Worst thing that will happen is someone is either gonna be rude and reply to you like, oh, I don't wanna talk to you, which is okay. And second worst thing that will happen is they will not reply. So that's it really. The third thing is just really good. They will reply and you will start building. Maybe you meet a friend, maybe you meet your potential client, maybe it's another collaborator, whatever it is. So like approach social media from the human point of view, or like LinkedIn, not just I'm looking for the stats and for leads. Think of it like, okay, obviously leads might be your number one reason why you are even hanging out there, but approach it from a human perspective of like, okay, I'm here for leads, but maybe I'm open to meet people here and I'm open to get to know other people as well. So make sure that you are there as a person, not as just someone who is looking for like, oh my god, I need to get another viral post out there just because.
Makes
Yeah,
me
I
think
think
of
that's
that.
really valuable.
Makes me think of that comment in our group chat, ladies. I think somebody had, please refrain from contacting me when they tried to send them a DM, which cracked me up. And it must feel really horrible if you do get those kind of comments. But it's like, how rude though. you know, if somebody sent me that, I'd be like, well, I don't really want to talk to you anyway. Like, what's wrong with just having a little saying hello? Like, are we just not here? This is social media after all. Are we not here to be social?
Exactly. Like I have a policy, like I have around 2,000 connections or something like that. And I made myself a promise when I was around 1,000 something connections in. I went through my connection list and I tried and say hi to every single person who was in my network, just to say hi and just thank them if they've been there for a while, or say hello, welcome them if they just recently joined, and see if I can help them with anything, just making sure I was there. And now everyone I connect with, I'm quite selective with who I connect with, but once I do connect, I say hello and I show some interest and I try to find common ground with everyone literally who comes in, because I don't really see the point with connecting with someone and ghosting them.
Yeah. Very, very
Definitely.
true.
So when you're saying about the kind of, obviously it's about that community building, that connection building. So how do you measure the success of your LinkedIn posts and articles then?
So you have a few like kind of metrics, of course, on LinkedIn. I don't believe that any metric is vanity metric, because okay, you have impressions, you have engagement, but well, if I compare my metrics today to where I was 1 year ago, okay, it might be a vanity metric because it will not show people how much my business have grown, but it will show me how much my LinkedIn and my profile has grown, my content, how much better things are, for example. So I don't think there is such thing as vanity metric. So definitely have a look and compare things, obviously in longer term. So don't look at 1 month, for example, comparisons. Look at 3 months, for example. So that would be one thing. And second thing, of course, check with how many leads came through, how many calls are booked from the back of your social media content, how many conversations you sparked, like how many people actually reach out to you, like to just say maybe hello, or to offer you some kind of maybe collaboration, podcast opportunity, whatever it is. And really, so like write down your KPIs, why you're on LinkedIn, and then check kind of 1 to 3 months later how far you've come. So if you want to get on a podcast, make sure that your actions go towards getting a podcast and your content is going for that. And then when you look back, it's like, okay, did I manage to get a podcast in this, let's say, 3 months, or am I doing something wrong? So it's a lot about that kind of.
Yeah.
And that's really important, having that starting point to measure towards, isn't it?
I think we just got a question in the thing. So Wayne is asking, can I put the counter view for if I had 20 minutes for a chat with everyone who connects on LinkedIn, I'll have no time left. Also, decision maker, the worst thing is when people ask to contact and jump in with both feet to pitch. Of course, when someone connects with you and pitch, like they send you pitch straight away just after barely saying hello. Yes, I hate that. I can't bear it. Like, at least get to know me. Like, do I really need your service? Is it even relevant to my business? I love when people come in and like, I am this type of worker, and they go in and they start introducing themselves because they want to work with me. And I'm like, I'm a solopreneur. I don't work with anyone. I'm not looking for a team. Or when someone else, I had the other day, what was that? Like lead generation. Of course, like, oh, could you handle 20 more appointments a week? And I'm like, absolutely not. I would go crazy with 20 new appointments every week, So like, get to know the person before you pitch them, please. Please. Do us a favor.
Yeah, let's not be advocating any pitch slaps, because we do not like pitch slaps from anybody.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Wayne, you have got a fair point. I mean, if you had 20 minutes for a chat with everyone, you'd have no time to work. But I guess it comes back to your point, Vicky, isn't it? About only connecting with people that you actually think that you've got some like potential connection with, for want of a better word, really. Or a collaboration in the future, for sure. So it's about being selective, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, for example, what I do now is I select days usually when I will go into my DMs and answer all my outstanding DMs. So I do it in batches rather than going in every single day and answering every single message. So I do it like, I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my days, depending, of course, it changes. When I go in and I answer all the DMs that I have, just to kind of have the 2 days to not having to worry about answering. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Does that give you more time to kind of come up with a like a more thoughtful response, rather than just hi thanks, constantly?
Funnily enough, I'm an introvert, so my social batteries run out very, very fast. So let's say if I was talking to people every single day and trying to be the most happy and kind of energetic self, my energy would run out very, very fast. And then whenever I write the content, I couldn't reflect the energy in the written part. So that's why I would separate that. So whenever I would go into the DMs, I make sure I have the energy and I am happy, I am in a mood to kind of talk to people. So then my responses are actually genuine. And then on the other days, I will put all that into the content part, kind of, and or meeting with friends, whatever. So like I kind of save my introverted energy and I spread it out.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I can't believe that you're really an introvert. I don't believe it.
Parts of me that are extroverted, or kind of I learned to be extroverted whenever it's in the situation, but I definitely recharge alone and I definitely need my alone time.
Yeah.
So that's what worked for me so far.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I guess I can, because I'm not an introvert, you might have noticed. So I guess I can relate that to having like creative periods when it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so in the zone, I'm going to write some really funny posts right now. Or yes, I'm definitely needing to work on this blog, or whatever it might be. It's all about working with your energy, as we've just had a comment in there. Yes, quite right. That is very true. So I feel, Louise, we need to be shining the spotlight on you now. It's time for you. So tell us all about effective email copy. Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're in the world of all socials. Email is still that kind of solid backbone, I believe, to campaigns, to connecting, because we're in this massively instant world, aren't we? And instant is great in lots of cases, but equally it's too much sometimes. So that's why I love email, because yes, we get bombarded in our inboxes by emails, but we choose to go in and have a look at our inboxes. And that's a fantastic opportunity, because often people are at a time when it's right for them to look at their emails. And still, it's one of the biggest areas of money making, to be frank. So for every $36 that goes in, so every dollar that goes in, $36 returns. So yeah, email marketing is here to stay, but we don't want it to be boring. And that's my big point is, we've all seen it, we've all got it. Inboxes full, like I said, of this boring old copy, and I just don't bother opening most of it, as a lot of people don't. So that's where my passion lies, in making it ping within that inbox and making it that go-to piece that you look forward to getting as well, that you think, right, okay, I'm going to get this newsletter, for example. I know that it comes at this time on this day, and that's the one that I'm waiting for to open. And that's what I would love to be able to do for my clients, and do love being able to do for my clients, who, like I say, being that go-to person. When it comes to copy with emails, it resonates a lot with what you guys are saying, particularly with yourself, Vicky, in that initial setup. If a client comes to me wanting to have a newsletter started that I want to send on a regular basis, it's about getting the foundations right. And sometimes people, particularly solopreneurs who are busy and they're trying to spin all of those plates, they just want to get something quickly out there, when actually it pays dividends to just take the time and stop and think about, okay, what's the goals of this newsletter? What real purpose are you wanting to achieve? Is it that connection? Is it to sell something? Is it to give back? And it should always be to give value, by the way. It should always be to give value. Yes, you want to do some of those other things, but actually to connect regularly with your audience, you need to be giving them something that they desperately need. I don't know if that kind of resonates with you guys as well.
Absolutely, 100%. Like on LinkedIn, you hear it all the time. Like give value. It's often so. My question actually here is like, how would you define give value? Always give value, because it's something that you hear everywhere, and so many people actually come to me and being like, "What is like? What do you mean by that?"
Yeah, exactly. It's not saying here is something specifically, but giving value can take so many different personalities, really. So it could be offering money off 10%, whatever it is. It could be making the person reading that email feel like, oh, they thought of me, and that's something that I could really do with. So it could be a link to a YouTube video. It could be a song that you heard to give a boost to their day. It could be a bit of humor gives value to people's day. You know, it can take lots and lots of different faces, and I think that is one that people do struggle with, because they feel like, oh, I've got to have something to give as such. But it doesn't have to be that you physically give. It's something that you bring to that email, being it even just in the tone of it, to having that looking forward to it, to have someone feel like you understand them, to have them feel like you have got their back, or that you get their challenges, or that you're bringing something positive to their day. So I think, yes, it is something that you have to sit down and think about, but it doesn't have to be something tangible that you're physically presenting within that newsletter. And that is a bit of a misconception. Yeah.
I love that concept, actually, because giving value, yeah, we talk about it all the time, don't we? And I guess for me, like, I love learning new things, which is why I like working with lots of different clients and kind of different areas, because I just love absorbing new information. So for me, that's what value would probably mean most of the time. But I think it all comes down to knowing your audience again, doesn't it? And knowing what's going to be the most valuable for them. And it's tried and tested kind of things, isn't it, really? But for those companies that are like, we must get a newsletter out this month, we must tell somebody that Martha has just started in sales, is like, no, you really do not need to tell people.
Don't.
Nobody cares other than Martha's mum, okay? So let's actually maybe take another couple of days to think about this.
Yeah, that as you can see by my my actions, yeah, it's one of the most frustrating things. And when things said here, I'm delighted to announce, who speaks like that? Don't say I'm delighted to announce within your that you're sending to someone that you're wanting to kind of create that connection with. And yeah, don't send an email just for the sake of it. Yes, you need to connect with your audience on a regular basis, but like we've just said, create that value in that big bubble of value, really. And it's not, that brings me to something I want to speak about as well, was it's not all about you. Like, I don't need to know that internal news, every single piece of internal news that's coming from your company or that's happening at the minute. It actually mostly should be about your clients and your audience, and what's of interest to them, speaking to their problems, issues, challenges, bringing benefits, solutions, etc. to them, sprinkled with having that little rainbow topping of news, if you like, that's been happening within your business. But again, news that's of relevance to them. You know, don't tell them stuff they don't need to know and don't want to know. It's just going to switch them off, because ultimately, yes, they're interested in your company because they've signed up to your email subscriptions. But humans will be humans, and humans are constantly thinking, what's in it for me? So
yeah, that's it.
Give them what they're looking for.
Yeah. So if you are shouting about Martha joining, make sure that you actually tie the value in, or what's in it for your customers, such as okay, we now have a new member of staff, which means we can take orders faster, which means that you're going to get shipped out sooner. Keep it in terms of like, telling people what they want to know about, for sure. Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? And I think we've all been on the receiving end of some of those really boring emails that we never want to receive again. It's nothing quicker to get you to click that unsubscribe, or not even open it in the first place. Taking us neatly on. What about the challenge of declining open rates, Louise? Talk to us about how you get past this one.
Yeah, so open rates, stats are saying that open rates are declining slightly within it, but for me, it's two main things really that are affecting that. So number one, don't underestimate the deliverability of your email. So making sure you've spent all that time doing it, it has to reach its destination. So a two-stage, the double opt-in. So any of you that are managing your own emails at the minute, make sure you've got that double opt-in, because that just helps create that authenticity, and it'll speak back to your email provider and say, oh, actually, this is a real person, it's not going to be spam. So yeah, go to your email provider and check that you've got the double opt-in when people are signing up to your emails. And the good old spam trigger words, inboxes are guarded like nightclubs with their bouncers, aren't they, saying you're not coming in. It's so like iron gated now. So yeah, trigger words are still relevant. Just Google search top trigger words for emails and loads will come up there. But just staying away from those that we know and we see in our inboxes, like, immediately, now 100%, this is the best, never seen before, winner, claim this. They're just not going to get any entry, and it's not just in your subject line, but in your whole body, the body of your email as well. So they're all things that are going to help you actually get to the destination. And I always say, make sure you use an email tester, so a send tester, spam tester. And there's a free one actually called mail-tester.com, which any of you can use, and just you send it to that first, and it gives you a little score as to its understanding of the deliverability of it. So AI is great in that way, and you can make any adjustments. And also a big one for deliverability is if they're getting it and they don't do anything with your email, so that click-through rate or not replying or anything, that will again talk back and say to your internet gods that your newsletter is not ideal. It's not got a good score to it anymore for those people. So within your email, just ask people to reply, get people to reply, get people, if it has got there, get them to try and put it in their address book so that they keep getting it. Just because they've received it once in their inbox doesn't mean it will always go to their inbox. If they're getting it in their inbox and they're not opening it for X amount of times, it will then be shoved into spam or promotions folder. And then I'm sure that's what I'm going to say. Next one is the subject line. The subject line is the most important, really. After it being delivered, yes, it's delivered finally to the right destination. The subject line is the thing that's going to make it stand out in that sea of emails in the inbox. Yeah, and there's a few different things, I'm sure you guys as well. It's a bit like the headline, isn't it, Vicky, with the in your LinkedIn posts, it's making that as attractive as possible so that people read it.
No, that like the subject line is so important, because like you have so many emails, and it's not like with LinkedIn, at least you can take advantage of all the white spaces, whereas in email it's one after another one. So you need to be really like careful and make sure that you capture the attention.
Yeah, and there's a few little things that can help. Yeah. Sorry, Becky.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's using those action words and those emotion words in the subject header without coming across as spam, that I think would probably be a challenge for a lot of people that potentially aren't copywriters.
Yeah, I agree. Because you've seen so much of that and it's been flooded to you, even though it's spam, your brain kind of goes straight to that if you're not practiced in finding alternatives. When you're writing your emails, definitely write the subject line last, because you need to have got the bulk of your email out, kind of completed to a degree, and then come to the subject line, because if you start with the subject line and trying to get it perfect first time, you will be stuck there for hours trying to get the perfect subject line if you start with that. Some key things: make sure you keep it fairly short. Numbers do tend to help. Getting your subject line to try and evoke an emotion, like you just said, Becky. And what do we mean by that? Because I know that's banded around quite a lot, creating an emotion. So particularly curiosity, urgency, anger, excitement. So it's those extremes of emotion, really. And another good one is to try and trigger a memory. So things like have a bit of fun with your subject lines. Think of maybe song lyrics. Smells, using the senses are so powerful. We've all done that. We've walked past something and got a smell, and it's taken you back to a moment in time that you've totally forgotten about. So it's drawing on the senses and the emotions, asking questions, personalizing it, popping a name in there does work to a degree, but it's getting less and less because people know that it's a tactic, really. Something please don't do. It's one of the most frustrating things that I see in my inbox is don't pretend to reply. So I've seen a few girls had them where it's an RE and then colon. I've not spoken to you before. Don't pretend you're replying to my email and trying to trick me to open it. It's really frustrating. Don't do it.
Interesting. I can't think that I've had it, but yeah, I can see how that would be really, really annoying.
Like so many of emails, especially now, like recently, whenever it's like a promotion, it's always the RE, and I'm like, I didn't text you. And then I opened it one time, like first time I ever got it. Especially it started happening to me only around like a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. So I was like, I didn't text you, what the hell? And then I opened it and then I saw that it was like a full promotion, and I was like, you're tricking me. That is gonna be that's gonna be an unsubscribe.
Yeah, exactly. So it actually creates a negative effect, because ultimately, girls, what we're trying to get from emails is trust and loyalty. And if you've tricked someone through your subject line, which takes us on to the clickbait as well, don't clickbait. If you've tricked someone to opening it, you've instantly lost that trust and loyalty, and it's done the opposite to what you wanted it to do. Another thing that I've recently learned about the subject lines actually is a bit of research about the emojis being used in subject lines, and they can actually have a massive increase. It can massively increase your open rates, around about 56% as well. Can open it. Huge percentage. Obviously, don't overuse them, but for certain ones that you particularly think, again, have a play around with it. What is the worst that can happen with it when you're playing around with it and finding out in those initial stages, a bit like what you were saying, Vicky, when you're first ghostwriting for someone, you've got to see what works for you, for your audience, and for your style.
Exactly. And I kind of wanted to ask, because like you're talking, Louise, and I'm just like making like notes in my head of like, okay, and my newsletter is gonna go out tomorrow, and I was like, okay, don't do that. So, and I'm really curious, like, what's your take on call to actions? Because someone says, have one and only. Someone says, it's a newsletter, you can have 2, 3. Yes, I would want to hear your input on that.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to those foundations. What is your goal of that newsletter? What's the goal of your newsletters overall? What's the goal of that particular newsletter? So if it is to encourage engagement, what type of engagement? If your call to action could be for somebody to reply because you're wanting to really boost that trust and loyalty. If it's for purchase and it's purchase only, you could have a number of call to actions, but that are calling for the same action. So I think where a lot of people, and you're right, it is a bit Marmite. Some people say only have one, and other people say no, have as many as you want to. Again, play around with a little bit, but always keep the goal in mind with your calls to action, and don't overcomplicate them. Keep it clear. People do not have time. People are skim reading more and more. If you're going to have a couple which have one particular goal, for example, maybe to go through and purchase, then have one at the top for those people who they know you, they've already gained that trust, they just want to get in and see what you're talking about. And then for another, make sure you've got another one, scroll down a little bit for those skim readers. So yeah, there isn't, I personally don't have a hard and fast rule for that, but I always think carefully about, okay, well, what is the purpose of this email? What one thing do I want people to do? And keep in your mind, they're time scarce, don't confuse them, keep it simple.
I think it's similar to a landing page, isn't it? Whereby you're trying to get somebody to take that action. And I've heard it a lot in marketing before. You know, if you give your users too many choices, the chances are they won't make any choice. So you want to make sure they're actually doing something, and it's your job as the content creator to make sure that you're guiding them to exactly where you want them to go. So like you say, Louise, just non-confusion, couldn't be more clearer. Stick a couple of arrows in where you want them to click, you know, whatever it might be, make it visual and make it actionable for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All those power words, you know, click, join, grab, take, have those there for your call to action, definitely.
Okay. And would you say, like, this is maybe there's no difference, it's just out of curiosity. So for example, whenever I'm creating my newsletter, there is an option to either put in the URL or like to highlight the words, or to add a button. Which one is more powerful?
Sorry, say that again for me.
So for example, whenever I'm creating newsletter, sometimes I get the option that I can just highlight, for example, a word, you know, and link the link within the words. So like in text, and sometimes I can add, like, or sometimes I would add a button. So if there's any difference, like which one is more powerful and which one isn't?
No, I don't know of a kind of preference to that. That's a really good question. But I think obviously if it's in a button, it's going to disrupt the reading. So if you had a longer piece, so if it's a bit of a longer form email, it might be better to have the button because it's disrupted that reading and drawn your eye. Whereas if it's a really short one paragraph email that you're sending out, you've gone, hey, I saw this and I thought of you guys, you're going to love it. Here's the link. Then have it as a link because they've not used much of their energy to already read through quite a lot.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
I suppose it wouldn't hurt to do it both. I guess it wouldn't hurt, would it? If you're going to highlight the words and do it, just so you know people can have as many opportunities to click on it as much as possible, I guess.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put too much confusion in there because the human brain, although it's so complex, it is so simplistic as well, and it could quite easily go, oh, but is that the same thing as that one? You know, keep it clear as to what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've just had a comment from Anwen, and she said, right, I'm off to rewrite my email for this week. Sorry, so she's obviously got some tips in there, and I actually really love the one about asking your subscribers to add you to their address list. So you know, marking you as not spam. I think that is such a powerful thing to ask, and you can be quite cheeky with it as well, can't you? Like, you know, oh, if you love this content, you found this helpful today, if I've brightened your day, you know, don't forget to add me, so you don't miss out next time, or you know, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important because they've opted in. You know, you've stood out to them for a reason. So yeah, get them to pop you in that address book.
Yeah, interesting. So feel free to ask any questions, guys. We're coming up for an hour, actually. We have been rabbiting for a very long time. So if anybody does have any questions, feel free to just pop them in the chat. We've only got a couple of minutes left, I think. Although we've been asking each other questions as we go along. So I'm sure like we're all interested in what each other's got to say because it's all different aspects of what we do, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I was just like
Absolutely.
I mean, to be honest, in this hour, like I was on a live, and I feel like I was sharing stuff, but I was learning so much as well. Like I'm gonna have to go through my website at some point. I keep postponing that, and I want to go through my kind of landing page and make sure that like that's the point, but I keep postponing it. And then as organized as I am with my content creation on LinkedIn, so like I'm capable of like scheduling a month worth of content ahead, just so I don't have to think about it. My email is the opposite. I'm sending an email every Thursday, and every Wednesday I'm running late, like, oh my God, I need to finish the email and schedule it in. Always, always.
I know. Oh, we have had a question actually just before we go. So what are your thoughts on using images in emails that are clickable? Is that a good tactic, Louise?
Yeah, again, it comes down to that kind of disrupting the page, if you like. So a bit like on LinkedIn when you've got the white, you need to utilize your white space. You need to utilize your white space within your emails as well. And it does kind of come down a bit to personal preference, but the odd picture and image here and there can definitely disrupt, draw the attention, and help the skim through. I think don't ever put anything in there just for the sake of it. But if it's going to add to it, if it's going to, the picture might be the value you're giving that day, or the GIF, or whatever it is you're putting in, because it's going to add the humor or give the emotion that you want to achieve. So yeah, pop one in there if it's got a purpose, but don't feel you have to put one in there.
Yeah, I think with my emails, I'm noticing more and more that I'm having to, that it's not downloading the images, so you have to, manually tell it to. So I suppose if you've got an email with a lot of images in, that might be a bit of a pain if that's something that's happening to you as well. I don't know whether it's just me and Outlook, but it does happen a lot.
Yeah. And if you're just starting out with it, just don't be afraid just to keep it simple. Like I've said before, it doesn't have to be all singing, all dancing with colors here and there. The emails that we get from friends or colleagues, of example, they're the white. They don't have all singing and dancing, so yours doesn't have to begin all singing and dancing. It's much better to put your energy into thinking about the foundations and the purpose of your email rather than what it looks like. Because if you've thought about the purpose to it, if it's actually got to their inbox and you've made them open it, then you're over the biggest hurdle. So that's the kind of area to put your energy into.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, well, thanks everyone for joining in for our LinkedIn Live today. Just over an hour we've hit now, so I'm definitely going to go and need a cup of tea because I feel like I've been talking for ages. So thanks to you two for joining. It's been really, really lovely. And any final call to actions that we'd like our guests to take after this LinkedIn Live today? Anybody want some emails or some LinkedIn posts? Then hit you up for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Also DM or a connection request or follow. I'd love to hear from you if you've listened in today. Thank you.
Same. Thank everyone who joined, and then if there's anything myself or any of other two ladies on the call can help, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, thanks ever so much everybody, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care now. Bye.
Bye everyone.